I'm with Arliss, W7XU uniform. You've just come back from Heard Island. What was it like?
It was terrific. Have had a long time interest in Antarctic, subantarctic islands, and had spent a year at the South Pole back in the 80s. And actually, I was also on the VP8 trip earlier this year to South Sandwich and South Georgia. And this was another exciting chance to go to a subantarctic area, and just the travel, getting there and being on the island without the operation was exciting, and then being able to do the DXing and pileups and all that was terrific.
So this is not your first de-expedition, so how did it stack up?
This was, most of the ones I've been on before were with my wife and myself and maybe a couple of friends, and then, like I said, the VP8. Both the VP8 trip and this were different, but they're both very exciting, and those were the first times I've been to really big time de-expedition with large groups and top 10 wanted entities. So it was thrilling in two parts. One, just being at a very rare spot, and then the fact that I was on Heard Island itself, very near the opposite side of the world from where I live, so back in South Dakota. So it was great.
So what do you do when you're in South Dakota?
I'm an emergency department physician, kind of semi-retired to retired at this point, trying to stay retired, but we'll see when I get back home. But yeah, that's what I do, is ER work.
So I'm guessing you also wore the doctor's hat when you were on Heard Island?
That's correct. And with expedition funds and some donations and all, while back home, got equipment, medications, that type of thing, to help at least give basic care to people who are on the island. But luckily, everyone stayed actually quite healthy. A few minor falls, that type of thing, but no serious injuries or illnesses to speak of.
So emergency department, you've got access to all manner of gizmos and gadgets and scanners and nursing staff and support staff and all of that. You don't have any of that on Heard Island. How do you prepare for the difference?
Well, actually, that's a very good point. And part of the preparation is telling the other team members, making them cognizant of the fact that I don't have a lot of support. The last place I was working full-time back in South Dakota was a specialty cardiac hospital, and the goal when someone would come in off the street was have them in the cath lab, and hopefully within 30 minutes, hopefully sooner than that, and if they have a clogged vessel that's opening up. And I have to tell the guys here that, well, instead we're not talking half an hour, we're talking 10 days back to Perth to get help. So you have to recognize that if something really bad happens, there's not a lot I can do, and you could possibly die, or bad infection, something like that, severe broken bones. People have to be accepting of the fact that, yes, I can give them something for pain and may set broken bones, but definitive care is a long ways away. So as far as antibiotics, that type of thing, try to take as much as was reasonable, but still there's the element of risk that everyone had to accept.
So how do you prepare as a physician? I mean, you come from an environment where you're, a member of this huge team that makes stuff happen, and you play your part in that mechanic of being a part of a hospital environment. How do you mentally prepare for, you're the first, the last, and the only, option in this environment?
I guess having worked in emergency departments, like you say, I usually almost always have someone to back me up. So if all I have to do is kind of control things for short term until, if it's really serious, they go to the OR or they go to the cath lab or wherever. So how do I prepare is gathering the medications and basic splinting material, things like that. And then it's just kind of accepting that all I can do is the best I can do, and people have to recognize that there are limitations and just have to accept that as the risk. And anytime there's only so much you can do, regardless of whether you're in a specialized setting and lots of help or out in a very remote place like Heard Island. Sometimes, like if there's what we call a code, if someone stops breathing, still there's only so much you can do even in the hospital setting. and sometimes people's luck just runs out, and it's just and you have to kind of learn to accept that. I was an ER doctor for 25 years, and sometimes no matter what you do, things don't work out. On Heard Island, it was similar, only it was things. I just had to realize things may not work out. I'll do what I can, but sometimes things just don't go your way. So I guess, some way it's already prepared for that. It was just that this was more personal because these would be people I know, and it'd be tough to see someone you know dying and you can't do anything more about it. But that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Okay, so all that aside, you left with 14 people and you came back with 14 people, and as far as I know, everybody's got all their fingers and toes still. So what was the worst you had to deal with?
The worst was there were a couple times people fell down and had some minor injuries. Actually, it was on the Braveheart. Someone fell down some stairs and some abrasions. There were actually two instances separate instances where different people became dehydrated and lightheaded and weren't feeling too well. But then it was just a case of more fluids, rest, put your feet up, and hope this wasn't a sign of something more serious, but as it turns out it wasn't, and they both got better pretty quickly.
Okay, so the short version of this is that you didn't actually have to call on your doctor duties very much, and you got to be a radio amateur for most of the time.
That's correct. And because, some of the falls were on the Braveheart, but there were a couple times I was called on to give my opinion or reassurance, but correct, most of the time I got to be just ham radio operator.
What's your fondest memory?
Oh, my fondest probably was the day we landed, because it was beautiful weather and we were expecting kind of the worst, and instead the sun's out and you could see Big Bend, the volcano, and it was gorgeous, and the wind wasn't blowing hard, and landing that first day I thought this was worth all the effort to get here, even if I didn't even get to get on the radio. It was just a wonderful place.
I'm with Arliss, W7XU. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks.